everyone, my name is Noah Meehan, the Arc of Truth, and today we're going to be talking about the vice presidential debate that occurred on October 1st. So I tried to actually see this live on Fox News, and I managed to do that, but I managed to see only the second half due to the fact that I was working on Tuesday with Amazon, and I couldn't get off of work early. It's one of those days. And of course, traffic. Shit happens. But anyways, when I managed to look at all the clips for the first half, and based upon that, since I'm making this video, J.D. Vance clearly was the winner in this debate by far. Now, I'm not going to say that Tim Walz entirely crashed and burned. This was definitely a major L, but in comparison to Kamala Harris as well as Joe Biden, he was actually much more well-spoken. He had a decent voice, and he tried to articulate with some of his points. But he was also kind of, I would say, in certain cases of issues, especially with the gun issue, which I will be talking about, he was definitely a hardliner. Now, in the case of J.D. Vance, it was clear that just looking and comparing both Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, he clearly got just the visual appealing advantage. J.D. Vance did. Mainly because of the fact that he was younger, like about 35. In fact, if I recall correctly, Tim Walz is about 4 years younger than Joe Biden. I can't say for certain, but I do know he's around that age range, which makes him pretty old. Which actually is kind of weird how the Democrats, ever since Joe Biden actually dropped out, they've been criticizing Donald Trump over his age when Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz as his running mate. And let's just be honest, he's basically, again, around that same age and could potentially have some of those same problems. But I'm digressing on that part. Now, of course, and the fact that he was young is not the only thing that stood out. He was much more calm. He was much more stoic in the entire debate. He did not try to come off as emotional, try to move around as much. In fact, he even made sure to even control his face, if that makes sense. Because as a leader, you need to give the presence that no attack, whether a verbal political attack or anything associated, especially within geopolitics, does not get to you. And he basically managed to pass the test. Tim Walz, he did not. He was everywhere. He was stumbling, more just in terms of body language, and he made so many faces that at this point it's essentially become a meme. But now let's look at the specific, at least certain specific points where Tim Walz clearly screwed up. And the first one was with the whole China issue. So he was given a question by CNN where it's basically said that you claimed that you were in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square protests, but as it's shown, this was not the situation. What do you say about this entire issue? And he just went out with a whole monologue. And in a way, it kind of reminded me of Kamala Harris with her whole, I was raised in a middle-class family, when he mentioned that he grew up in a small town in Minnesota with 400 people and yada, yada, yada. I was like, oh my God, get to the freaking point. At least within 30 seconds. But then he finally got into the issue of China, and he said that he misspoke, and then he even went so far as to say that he learned governance while there. Yeah, pretty telling from how Tim Walz has been running the state of Minnesota. And I have not followed Tim Walz at all until he was announced as Kamala Harris's running mate. But ever since we learned about Tim Walz, he apparently, and I said this before in one of my videos when he was announced as the running mate, that he actually created a hotline to snitch on other people during the COVID pandemic. Which kind of explain, and considering the fact that he said that he learned governments in China as the Chinese Communist Party was suppressing said democracy protests, well, that's kind of telling, isn't it? But I'm digressing. The other point that he made was specifically about guns, and he said in his opening triad in regards to the situation about guns and the gun epidemic, he said that he was friends with school shooters. I am not kidding you. There's actual footage of that, and I don't understand what came through his head. He should have easily said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I meant school shooter victims," or something like that. But no, he continued on, and then at the very end, he said, after talking about how J.D. Vance, and he agreed that there was the issue of mental health to be concerned, he then said, but maybe this is perhaps, maybe, just maybe, it's the guns. It's just the guns. And that entire statement alone basically destroys Kamala Harris when she had that debate with Donald Trump, and how she said that she and Tim Watson are not going to take away anyone's guns because they're gun owners. Name me a single person who is a gun owner that says something like this. I doubt you can find anyone, because in all honesty, guns are tools. Yes, they are weapons, but they're also tools. They're meant to do a specific action, in this case, to defend yourself, or to go hunting, or to fight in a war. And I'm just saying this in a simple perspective, but nonetheless, that is the function of what guns do. And yet, he goes on to say maybe the problem is the guns, implying that he may possibly think about a federal firearms ban. Not a good look. You just lost the gun ownership vote. And going back to J.D. Vance for a second. J.D. Vance, at least from my perspective, I'm a biased Republican. I am a Trump supporter. But from my perspective, if I was to try to place myself in the shoes of an undecided or an independent voter, I would say that he came off as a reasonable kind of guy who is more moderate than he seems. He was well spoken, he was calm, and he even acknowledged some cases of Tim Watson, some of his proposals that either he says were pretty good, or good ideas, but they need to be more developed. And that's actually kind of what independents and undecided voters tend to like about a specific candidate. They don't really like polarization. They like people who are willing to go on and potentially compromise with the other side to get shit done. And J.D. Vance managed to come off as exactly that. Especially within the abortion debate. I would say that I would not be surprised if he was pro-life, kind of like I am, but he also came off and said, "Look, the Republican Party is clearly having an issue with this issue, and it has a problem communicating its own platform. In reality, we are more pro-family. We want to try to deal with this entire situation in a way where not only women could actually deal with things such as abortion in a more intelligent manner, but they can also be able to find a way where they can be able to grow and have families," which is honestly completely perfectly reasonable answer. This actually defames the abortion issue, and it's kind of crazy how it's Donald Trump who managed to do this. I mean, after all, he managed to put 3 Supreme Court justices to help overturn Roe versus Wade. Now, on with the rest of the debate. Is this going to change anything? honestly, no. It's not really going. Rarely debates, especially VP debates, do not tend to change people's minds. Hell, they tend to be. They don't really tend to be knockout punches for the most part. Sometimes people say that there's a clear winner, other times there's not. But overall, it doesn't have that much of a political impact. Very rarely it does. I mean, after all, we saw what happened with June 27th, and we also saw, or many boomers saw, back in 1984, how Ronald Reagan managed to crush Walter Mondale when he mentioned that he wasn't going to criticize his opponent's inexperience and youth, which is, I mean, I'm sorry, that was a good answer. And that further contributed to the landslide victory that Ronald Reagan got in 1984. Point is, debates rarely make a political impact within elections, at least within the American elections. However, I will say that with recent events such as with Hurricane Helen and the response that's been going on, may actually play a potential role to at least to a certain extent. I would say though that this VP debate will still be on the minds of at least some people, but for the most part, already so many people have made up their minds. But for those who haven't, I would say that this would potentially help Donald Trump, because now J.D. Vance is actually considered more likable as a result. And he's even considered more favorable as a VP candidate. Because I know that people had an issue with him, but me personally, I didn't really, but there were those detractors who had an issue with Vance. But with this VP debate, I believe that has shut them up, and now they're on board with him. With undecideds, I'm pretty sure that it still will linger and then would potentially influence them. But again, this is not a bit. VP debates are not much of a big issue on the electoral on the election season, and that's also the same with presidential debates as well. But nonetheless, this, considering the fact that it's only a month until the actual election, this will still potentially be in the minds of undecided and independents that are still, to this day, remain undecided. And maybe, just maybe, it will influence them to possibly choose Donald Trump. My name is Noami here on The Dark Truth. Please post your comments down below, like this video, subscribe, and share with friends. Also, if you have any issues regarding my videos, such as any improvements I should make, please post in the comment section down below or directly message me. Thank you.
West Virginia, Blue Ridge Mountain.